Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone. I'm Saurabh Pawar, a master student from ARI Academy, presenting my study on benchmarking of the Mercedes EMG Project 1. The Mercedes EMG 1 is an upcoming limited edition plug-in hybrid sports car manufactured by Mercedes AMG featuring Formula One derived technology. This car was unveiled at the 2017 International Motor Show, Germany, by Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton, a six-time Formula One world champion, widely regarded as one of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport and also considered by some to be the greatest of all time. He has worked in the development of the car with the head of the Mercedes-Benz Dieter Zetz. The production of the car is planned to be 275 units at the price of $2.65 million each, all of which have already been sold. Mercedes AMG received orders for four times the production amount, but have already stated that the production will not be increased from the planned 275 units in order to maintain the exclusivity of the car. Now we'll be moving on towards the powertrain of the vehicle. The powertrain of the Mercedes AMG Project 1 is expected to be rated between 775 to 918 kilowatts, which equals to 1054 to 1248 PS through a hybrid drivetrain that shares many features with the modern Formula One cars. The car has five motors. Out of this, one is the internal combustion engine, and the four electric motors. We'll be moving on towards the internal combustion engine part. The Mercedes AMG 1 will utilize a modified 1.6-liter turbocharged 90-degree V6 engine from the Mercedes AMG F1 W07, as confirmed by the Mercedes AMG board member Paula Kalines. Modifications will be done to the engine due to the engine's illegality in RPM, idle, and redline. The head of the Mercedes AMG, Tobias Moers, stated that the engine will be at idle at 1280 RPMs and the red line will be at 11,000 RPM. However, the engine will only last for 50,000 kilometers, which is 31,000 miles, and the owners will have to return their cars for engine refurbishment. The engine produces 558 kilowatts, which is roughly equal to 748 horses, with top figures still unknown. Talking about the electric motors used in the vehicle, the ICE will work in conjunction with four electric motors: a 120 kilowatt, 163 PS, which is 161 bhp, MGUK, which is the motor generator unit kinetic coupled to the crankshaft, a 90 kilowatt, 122 PS, which is 121 bhp, MGUH, which is motor generator unit heat coupled to the turbocharger, and two 120 kilowatt 161 horses of electric motors at the front axle. The MGU-K and the MGU-H are Formula One style motors responsible for recovering energy and improving efficiency during operation of the car. More specifically, the MGU-K serves to generate electricity during braking, while the MGU-H serves to eliminate turbocharger lag and improve throttle response by keeping the turbine spinning at high speeds. The final two electric motors drive the front wheels to allow an all-wheel drivetrain, and the sum of these four electric motors will contribute to 450 kilowatt, which is equal to 603 horses of effective power to the total power output figure of the Project 1. We'll be moving on towards the transmission side. The transmission will be a single clutch automated manual variant and delivers the bulk of the engine's power to the rear wheels. The use of a single clutch over a dual clutch transmission was due to AMG's engineer wanting to keep the car light and due to the concerns over the dual clutch ability to handle high revving V6 engines. We'll be moving on towards the wheels. The Project 1 has wheels made out of aluminum alloy and carbon fiber, with diameters of 19 inches at the front and 20 inches at the rear, with center lock wheel nuts just like the F1. The tires are Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2S with codes of 285/35 ZR19 for the front and 335/30 ZR20 for the rear. The brakes are ventilated carbon ceramic discs, just as we have seen in the Formula One cars. The interior features of the vehicle is mostly minimalist and driver focused, continuing the Formula One theme of the Project One. This includes a Formula One style steering with pedals and a driver oriented central infotainment system. There are some traditional luxuries features in the interior, notably, Napa leather is used and hand stitching on the bucket seats. We'll be moving towards an important parameters, which are the electrical parameters. The MGU-H works on a 48 volt system, which is the 90 kilowatt motor. The MGU-K works on an 800 volt high voltage system, which is 120 kilowatts. The motor used here is AC asynchronous induction motor, which runs at 50,000 RPM peak and 20,000 RPM, which is the average. The axle mounted motors give out a power of 240 kilowatts, which are also high voltage motors. These motors are categorized under the same as AC asynchronous induction motors, which have 50,000 RPM as the peak and 20,000 RPM as the average. The other auxiliary systems use 12 volts to operate their electrical components. Other electrical loads include the headlight resistive, which is for 12 volts, tail lamps, which are OLED, they are resistive as well, which are less than 12 volts, AC electromagnetic clutch inductive, which is also 12 volts, telematic, telematic and infotainment, which is also 12 volts, power steering, which is inductive. The vehicle also uses active aerodynamics, out of which the flaps on the hood, which are also inductive, work on 48 volts servo motors. Both the sides of the hood have two motors which are responsible for the actuation of the flaps on the hood. The active aero duct in the front, which is inductive, also works on 48 volt servo motors on both the sides. These aero ducts are responsible for taking the air inside for the cooling purpose, and at other times they are used for the downforce purpose, which is responsible for the ground effect. The big F1 aero wing, which you always see on a Formula One car, has also been integrated somewhat into the Project One. The active aerodynamic wing, which is also inductive, works on a 48 volt electromechanical actuator. Active aerodynamic flaps DRS work on 12 volt servo motors, and active aerodynamic wing DRS also work on 48 volt servo motors. The windshield wipers are also inductive, which are 12 volts. Power windows, 12 volts. Mobile chargers also work on 12 volts. These all are nothing but auxiliary systems. Now moving on toward the front axle mounted motors. These are AC asynchronous induction motors, which are inductive. Both the motors work on a high voltage 800 volt system and produce 240 kilowatts of power. The AC asynchronous induction motor, which is responsible for the MGU-K, also works on the same architecture, which is the high voltage 800 volt, 120 kilowatts of power. The motor, which is used for the for decreasing the turbo lag, also known as the MGU-H, is a DC motor which works on a 48 volt, 90 kilowatt system. Now we'll be moving on towards the Formula One car. Everything that has been derived in this vehicle is supposed to be from a Formula One car. The drivetrain, the engine, the MGU-H, the MGU-K, the brakes. Basically, the driver who will be driving this Project One should be feeling he's driving a Formula One car which is ready for the roads. A Formula One car is a single seater, open cockpit, open wheel racing car with substantial front and rear wings. It has an engine positioned behind the driver, intended to be used in competition at Formula One racing events. The regulations governing the cars are unique to the championship and specify that cars must be constructed by the racing teams themselves, though the design and manufacture can be outsourced. We'll be talking a little bit about different components of the Formula One and how they have affected the derivation from Formula One to the Project One. So, modern day Formula One cars are constructed from composites of carbon fiber and similar ultra lightweight materials. The minimum weight permissible is 740 kilograms, including the driver, but not the fuel. Cars are weighed with dry feather tires fitted prior to the 2014 F1 season. Cars often weighed in under this limit, so team added ballast in order to add weight to the car. The advantage of using ballast is that it can be placed anywhere in the car to provide ideal weight distribution. This can also help lower the car's center of gravity to improve stability and also allow the team to fine tune the weight distribution of the car to suit individual circuits. We'll now be talking about the engine of the car. The 2006 Formula One season saw the Federation International del Automobile introduce a new engine formula, which mandated cars to be powered by 2.4-liter naturally aspirated engines in the V8 engine configuration, with no more than 4 valves per cylinder. Further technical restrictions, such as a ban on the variable intake trumpets, have also been introduced with the new 2.4-liter V8 formula to prevent the teams from achieving higher RPMs and horsepower too quickly. The 2009 season limited the engines to 18,000 RPM in order to improve engine reliability and cut the costs. For a decade, F1 cars had run with 3-liter naturally aspirated engines, with all teams setting on a V10 layout by the end of the period. However, development has led to these engines producing between 730 to 750 kilowatts, which almost equals around 980 to 1000 horses, and the cars reaching top speeds of 375 kilometers an hour. Teams started using exotic alloys in the late 1990s, leading to the FIA banning to the use of exotic materials in the engine construction, with only aluminium, titanium, and iron alloys are allowed by the pistons, cylinders, connecting rods, and crankshafts. The FIA has continually enforced material and design constructions to limit power. Even with the restrictions, the V10s in the 2005s were reputed to develop 730 kilowatts, which is a whopping 980 horses. Power levels have not seen since the ban on turbocharged engines in 1989. The lesser funded teams, the former Minardi team, spent less than 50 million, while the Ferrari spent hundreds of millions euros a year developing their car. They always had the option to keep the current V10 for another season, but a rev limiter to keep them from competitive and the most powerful V8 engines. The only team to take this option was the Toro Rosso team, which was the reformed and the regrouped Minardi. In 2012, the engine consumed around 450 liters of air per second. Race fuel consumption rate was normally around 75 liters per 100 kilometers. All the cars have the engine located between the driver and the rear axle. The engines are a stressed member in most cars, meaning the engine is part of the structural support framework being bolted to the cockpit at the front end and the transmission at the rear suspension at the back end. We have seen the same kind of technology being derived to the Project One. As of the 2014 season, all F1 cars have been equipped with a turbocharged 1.6-liter V6 engines. This is the kind of technology which has completely been utilized to the most, has been technologically advanced to its most, and has been then derived to the Project One. Turbochargers have previously been banned since 1989. This may have given an improvement of up to 29% fuel efficiency. One of the many reasons that Mercedes dominated the season early was due to the placement of the turbocharger's compressor at one side of the engine and the turbine at the other. Both were then linked by a shaft traveling through the V of the engine. The benefit of this, the air is not traveling through as much pipe work, in turn reducing turbo lag and increasing the efficiency of the car. In addition, it means the air moving through the compressor is much cooler as it is way farther from the hot turbine section. We will now be moving on toward the aerodynamics of the car. The aerodynamics is arguably the most influential component of the Formula One's car setup. The majority of the team's budget is devoted towards optimizing airflow around the car to achieve maximum downforce levels with minimum drag. However, teams need to set up their car to direct air inside the engine the transmission, and the brakes in order to cool them. Nowadays, F1 cars are full of bits and bobs that contribute towards aerodynamic gains, but there are two main factors that can heavily affect airflow. These are the front wings and the rear wings. Also, these two components are designed and developed very carefully in order to be easily changed from race to race or even from session to session. This is done whenever a crash could happen or they would want to test newer wings at the front or the rear. Front and rear wings are primarily factors influencing airflow. Engineers using the same wing are able to provide different downforce levels by simply adjusting the angle of attack. This is determined by the angle of the chord, leading and trailing edge of an airfoil. When the angle of attack is neutral, the wing will produce downforce due to its shape as explained by the Bernoulli's equation. If the angle of attack is increased, then more downforce will be generated. Although above a certain threshold of around 14 to 15 degrees, downforce will not start to decrease while stability will worsen as the air starts to separate from the underside of the wing surface. This phenomenon is called as a stall. The front wing is comprised of two main components. The main plane of the several flaps. The first creates the bulk of the downforce on the front of the car and it is actually at a fixed angle. The fine tuning, though, is done with the flaps, which are essentially miniatures of the wing and work as an airfoil too. When air is traveling over the main plane, it loses energy. Then it tends to separate from the surface to the wing, which would have, as a result, low downforce level. But that's where the work of the flaps come to the rescue. Due to their position being slightly higher than the main plane, they allow for new air to come through and re-energize the weak airflow. That way, engineers achieve higher levels of downforce for a longer period of time. Therefore, when teams want more or less downforce, they tweak the angle of the flaps, which can be even done during the race. That's because engineers design flaps in such a way that it's simple and quick for pit crew members to increase or decrease their angle with the help of a screwdriver. However, the majority of the work on aerodynamic grip is done before the teams arrive at the circuit. Engineers use wind tunnels, creating an aero map that indicates how different levels of downforce can be achieved so that the drag is minimized. So, all that is left is during the practice, qualifying, and the race is to use the cheat sheet and collaborate with the drivers to reach the optimum balance of the car. The main plane of the lowest horizontal carbon fiber piece also makes the underbody of the vehicle. Another area that heavily affects how airflow is shaped around the car is size and placement of the braking cooling ducts. Brakes, as mentioned previously, need to be cooled continuously to prevent overheating, and that's why these ducts are placed on the inside and slightly ahead of each wheel system. Their position is very awkward and it disrupts airflow, decreasing drag. Teams can build them with smaller openings to reduce their disruptive effect, but in reality, their size is determined by the weather and the needs of the car. Usually, even if engineers build small ducts and the aerodynamic gain will be very insignificant, so they will need to balance out this excess of drag by fine tuning a different component of the car. Generally, teams will use data on downforce versus straight line speed to determine where the perfect balance of the two exists. Then they will most probably choose to slightly favor straight line speeds because the driver, no matter how good he is, he won't be able to consistently extract the full potential of the car on the corners over the course of 70 laps. Whereas on the straights, it's possible to do so. However, in any kind of motor racing, the perfect setup doesn't exist and it can't be achieved either. Lastly, I want to close with an Ayrton Senna's quote. In motor racing, including Formula One, you must always reach a compromise between the various settings which affect the performance of the driver. There is no clearly defined procedure that will allow you to find the most effective setup in a scientific and dependable way. Well said. And this is the kind of uh, idealism, what the idealistic way of thinking, what Mercedes has done with their Project One. They have taken this same kind of a thinking attitude towards making a Formula One road car, which is drivable every day. Moving on, the aerodynamic designer has two primary concerns: the creation of downforce to help push the car's tires onto the track and improve cornering forces, minimizing the drag that gets caused by the turbulence and acts to slow down the car. Every single surface of a modern Formula car, from the shape of the suspension links to that of the driver's helmet, has its aerodynamic effects considered. Disrupted air, where the flow separates from the body, creates turbulence, which creates drag, which slows down the car. And this is something the Formula One does not like. Almost as much effort has been spent reducing drag as increasing downforce from the vertical end plates fitted to the prevent vortices forming to the diffuser plates mounted low at the back, which help to re-equalize pressure of the faster blowing air that has passed under the car and would otherwise create a low pressure balloon dragging the car at the back. Despite this, designers can't make their cars too slippery, as a good supply of airflow has to be ensured to dissipate the vast amount of heat produced by the engine and the brakes. Revised regulation introduced in 2005 forced the aerodynamicists to be even more ingenious in a bid to cut speeds. The FI reduced downforce by raising the front wing, bringing the rear wing forward, and modifying the rear diffuser profile. The designers quickly regained much of this loss with a variety of intricate and novel solutions, such as the horn winglets, first seen on the McLaren MP420. Most of these innovations were effectively outlawed under even more stringent aero regulations imposed by the FIA for 2009. That was usurped by 2011 by the new DRS drag reduction system, a rear wing system which basically opens in specific areas of the track, which is useful for overtaking. This too allows drivers to make adjustments, but the system's availability is electronically governed. Originally, it can be used at any time in practice and qualifying unless the driver is on wet weather tires. But during the race, it can only be activated when the driver is less than 1 second behind another car at predetermined points on the track. The system is deactivated once the driver brakes. The system stalls the rear wing by opening a flap which leaves a 50 mm horizontal gap in the wing, thus massively reducing the drag and allowing higher top speeds. By this method, around 10 to 15 kilometers of an hour top speed boost can be gained by the driver behind, so he can overtake the driver in front. However, this also reduces downforce, so it is normally used on long straight track sections or sections which do not require high downforce. The system was introduced to promote more overtaking and is often the reason for overtaking on straights or at the end of straights where overtaking is encouraged in the following corners. However, the reception of DRS has been differed among drivers, fans, and specialists. We have talked a lot about wings, so further on, we'll be moving on toward the steering wheel. The driver has the ability to fine tune many elements of the race car from within the machine using the steering wheel. The wheel can be used to change gears, apply rev limiter, adjust fuel air mix, change brake pressure, and call the radio as well. Data such as engine RPM, lap times, speed, and the gear are displayed on an LCD screen. The wheel hub will also incorporate gear change pedals and a row of LED shift lights. The wheel alone can cost around $50,000 and with carbon fiber construction weighs in at 1.3 kilograms only. In the 2014 season, certain teams such as Mercedes have chosen to use larger LCDs on their wheels, which allow the driver to see additional information such as the fuel flow and torque delivery. They're also more customizable owing to the possibility of using much different software. We'll now be moving on toward the performance of the Formula One cars and how Mercedes has been one of the best teams since 2014. Every F1 car on the grid is capable of doing 0 to 160 kilometers hour and back to 0 in less than 5 seconds. During a demonstration at the Silverstone circuit in Britain, an F1 McLaren Mercedes car driven by David Coulthard gave a pair of Mercedes-Benz street cars a head start of 70 seconds and was able to beat the cars to the finish line from from the standing start at a distance of only 5.2 kilometers. The combination of lightweight 642 kilogram of a vehicle with a power of 670 kilowatts, that is 900 horses, with a 3-liter V10 engine with the 2007 regulations, it is 2.4-liter V8 710 kilowatt engine. Basically, is a vehicle which is made to break track records. In the performance of a Formula One car, three types of acceleration can be considered to assess a car's performance. The acceleration, the 2016 cars have a power to weight ratio of 1400 horses per ton, which is 1.05 kilowatt per kilogram. Theoretically, this would allow the car to reach 100 kilometers an hour in less than 1 second. However, the massive power cannot be converted to motion at low speeds due to traction loss, and the usual figure is 2.5 seconds to reach 100 kilometers an hour. There are also boost systems known as the KERS, the Kinetic Energy Recovery System. These devices recover the kinetic energy created by the car's braking process. They store this energy and convert it into the power that can be called upon to boost the acceleration. KERS typically adds 80 horsepower, which is 60 kilowatts, and weighs 35 kilograms. There are principally two types of systems, electrical and mechanical flywheel. Electrical systems use a motor generator incorporated in the car's transmission, which converts the mechanical energy into the electrical energy and vice versa. Once the energy has been harnessed, it is stored in the battery and released at will. Mechanical systems capture braking energy and use it to turn a small flywheel which can spin up to 80,000 rpm. When extra power is required, the flywheel is connected to the car's rear wheels. In contrast to electrical KERS, mechanical energy does not change state and is therefore more efficient. There is one more option available, the hydraulic KERS, where braking is used to accumulate hydraulic pressure, which is then sent to the wheels when required. We will now be specifically talking about the technical specifications for the Formula One car. These are some specifications kept in mind when the Project One was being designed. The construction, as we know, is a carbon fiber chassis, gearbox being an 8-speed seamless semi-automatic paddle shift sequential gearbox, longitudinally mounted with hydraulic system for power shift and clutch operations. These have fixed gear ratios. The steering is power-assisted rack and pinion steering. The brakes are 6-piston front and rear, carbon calipers, carbon discs, and carbon pads. The dampers and springs are chosen by their own design standards and by their own manufacturers. The tires used in Formula One are Pirelli P0, slick, dry, and Pirelli Cinturato, treaded intermediate wet tires. The engines which have been used in Formula One as of now are manufactured by Mercedes-Benz, Renault, Ferrari, and Honda. As we know from here, that Mercedes engines have been one of the best engines in the Formula One. This is the same engine which has been utilized inside the Project One. The type of engine used inside a Formula One car, as we know, is a hybrid powered four-stroke piston Otto cycle with efficiency combustion process and greater emission engine burning. Configuration which has been derived into the Project One is the same, which is the V6 single hybrid turbocharger engine. The angle of the engine is 90 degrees. Displacement is 1.6 liters. We'll be now moving on toward the ERS systems of an F1 car. The MGU-K, which gives a maximum RPM of 50,000 RPMs, produces maximum of 120 kilowatts. The same kind of technology has been taken from Formula One and put inside the Project One. The energy recovered by MGUK is maximum 2 megajoules per lap, and the energy released by MGUK is maximum 4 megajoules per lap. This is the kind of technology which basically recovers the energy while braking, and this energy can be utilized wherever the vehicle wants to. The MGU-H goes maximum up to 100,000 RPMs, which is the electric turbocharger which we know is used in the Project One. Now we'll be moving on towards some of the technology which has been taken from the Mercedes-Benz EQ Power Formula E technology. So this is a Formula E car. The most important things which have been taken from the Formula E car towards the Project One is the battery unit. The original battery specifications included a 200 kilos cell weight limit, which gave out a 200 kilowatt peak power limit and the maximum usable energy of 28 kilowatt hours. Now, that much of energy wasn't needed in the Project One. So, the battery which was used inside the Project One has been described below, which I'll be talking on later in the video. The electrical power unit in the Formula E gave out a maximum power of 200 kilowatts, which had 180 horsepower in economy mode and 270 horsepower in qualification mode. This was for the Gen 1. And for the Gen 2, which is now, uh, the Formula E gives out maximum power of 250 kilowatts. That is 270 horsepower in race mode, 301 horsepower in attack mode, and 335 horsepower in fan boost mode. Except all these things will be coming back to the Project One now. The battery which has been used in the Project One is lithium ion 800 volt high voltage battery, which has a capacity of 21.6 kilowatt hours. This battery has around 223 numbers of 3.6 volt cells, which equals to the 802.8 volt of high voltage output. The charging is taken from the EQ range of the vehicles from Mercedes-Benz as of now, and the plug-in charging standards are CCS, which is combined charging standard on type 2. The charger which has been used has a 7.4 kilowatt onboard charger, which completely charges the vehicle in less than 3 hours at home, or rapid 110 kilowatt DC charger, which can be charged at a charging station, and the vehicle can be charged, the Project One can be charged in less than 12 minutes. So Mercedes-Benz EQ is a series of battery electric vehicles manufactured by Mercedes-Benz. The first model was previewed at the Paris Motor Show in 2016 with a Generation EQ concept vehicle. Mercedes-Benz intends to produce 10 EQ models by 2022, three of which will have the Smart brand, representing between 15 and 25% of the company's global sales. All of the Mercedes-Benz electric vehicles design and production efforts will target the EQ family, which has then been derived into the Project One, giving it the battery and the EQ power and the charging standard it needs. Moving on towards the Project One, the converters inside the Project One are two DC-DC converters. One which takes the energy from the battery and converts it into a 12 volt for the auxiliary components, and the second is for the MGU-H, which is the 48 volt architecture. There are four AC to DC converters. One is used for the regenerator MGU-K, two are used for the front AC motors, and one is used for the plug-in charging system. There are three DC to AC converters. One is used for the MGUK and two are used for the AC motors. We'll be talking ahead features of the vehicle, features of Project One. Engine, as we know, has been provided by the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One. It has been electronically tuned down. The 1.6 liter V6 hybrid petrol engine with direct injection and electrically assisted single turbocharging comes straight from the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One racing car. As you can see in the photograph, 4 electric motors have been used. The MGUH, the motor generator unit heat, which is the electric turbocharger. The exhaust gas and the compressor turbines are separated from each other and located at an optimum position to the exhaust and the intake of the V6 engine and connected to each other by shaft. The shaft features an electric motor which approximately 90 kilowatt, which depends on the operating status, electrically drives the compressor turbine with up to 100,000 RPM, as we have seen in the Formula One car, for instance, when moving off or following load changes. The MGUK is another motor being used in the vehicle, is the motor generator unit kinetic. The electric turbocharger brings another advantage. It uses parts of the surplus energy from the exhaust system to generate electricity and either stores it in high voltage lithium ion batteries as part of the energy recovery or produces additional power by sending it to another electric motor. This motor produces 120 kilowatts. It is installed directly on the engine and is connected to the crankshaft via a spur gear. Moving on towards the front of the axle are the two electric motors. The thermal efficiency of the combustion engine and the electric turbocharger, in conjunction with the electric motor on the crankshaft, will be over 40%. That is a big accomplishment for the Mercedes-Benz team. This is an unprecedented peak value for production vehicles. There are two more 120 kilowatt electric motors on the front axle, which we were talking about. Each is connected to a front wheel via a reduction gear. The electrically driven front axle allows individual acceleration and braking of each wheel, and therefore a selective torque split, which is torque vectoring for particularly high levels of driving dynamics. This vehicle is made to crush the track and the lap times. Innovative pushrod suspension is used. This is the same kind of technology we have seen in the Formula One cars. It takes up very less amount of space and gives very good dynamic performance. Multi-link designs are used at the front and the rear. The adjustable coilover suspension has several special features. Both pushrod spring struts are installed transversely to the direction of the travel. The innovation arrangement of the string damper unit replaces the function and use of a conventional tubular stabilizer. This solution reliably prevents body roll even during fast direction changes without being uncomfortable at all. The overall setup of the springs and dampers is configured for perfect balance, easily controlled, and above all, sporty handling characteristics. All-wheel drive and torque vectoring also plays a big role in this. The automated 8-speed manual transmission. The power will be transferred to the rear wheels by an 8-speed manual transmission that was developed from scratch for the Mercedes-AMG Project One. It is actuated hydraulically and can be shifted in automatic mode or manually using the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. The car is equipped with a further advanced weight-optimized ceramic high-performance compound braking system. Its low weight reduces the unsprung masses and thus improves the driving dynamics and agility. This vehicle is not just a street legal racer. The Mercedes-AMG Project One will be more than just a street legal racer that puts the latest Formula One hybrid technology on the road one-to-one and combines racetrack performance with full daily practicality. Its purpose is also to obtain extensive knowledge about performance-oriented plug-in hybrid powertrain technology, further advanced suspension layouts, and expanded vehicle electronics that will later benefit AMG production cars. The car concept was given in 2017. In 2019, the production started, and 2021 is the day the delivery of the vehicle is done. We'll be talking a little bit about the pros of the vehicle. The F1 technology integrated into a road legal car is something of an awe. The pure electric range is 22 kilometers without the engine running. The engine efficiency is to be between 40 to 45%. It is due to the major factors of MGUK, MGUH, and the electric drive at the front. This vehicle is a technologically advanced hybrid, resulting in a benchmark and epitome in innovation. Some cons of the vehicle, as you can say, it's a Mercedes Benz and a limited edition vehicle. The cost is going to be a lot high. The engine life is a big con as it can go only 50,000 kilometers, and after that it has to be refurbished. It is a daily driver as given by Mercedes, but as we can see, this vehicle cannot be practically used as much. This is due to the circumstances of the engine life as well as due to the Indian roads, it cannot be used here. Well, if it was US or any other countries which have a lot of supercars and hypercars on the road, the roads and the vehicles are made according to that. In India, that is really hard to come by. So, with this, I am ending the video. I hope you like the presentation of the Mercedes Project One. Thank you.